Hey guys, me again. I'm back finally to talk about my number one epiphany of February 2020, which had to do with weight loss. I got a lot of really positive feedback when I posted some of my progress, and there were a lot of questions as to how I actually managed this, and it just led me to digest the larger picture of how I finally got the weight to stay off. Because I was one of those people, I knew how to lose weight. I knew how to get it off. I just didn't know what I was missing, that it kept coming back. And the portion that kept it off, that really made the change, that made the lower weight me the new me, instead of just a phase of my expression that eventually put it all back on, was actually the mental health journey. I always had a toe dipped in the weight loss world. My family and I were always trying out different fad diets and new kinds of medicinal products, and I was put on a medical diet when I was in high school and lost 40 pounds. So that was my first experience of losing a lot of weight that didn't stay gone. Eventually, I ended up dating a boyfriend that was really into weight loss and fitness, and he was cooking all my meals for me. So once again, because it took very little control and all I had to do was go along for the ride, I lost the 50 pounds that time that didn't stay gone. The actual process of where I'm at today was a long period of losing 4 to 7 pounds a month. And I originally started my weight loss journey at 220, and I'm now at 160. So a little bit about what that journey looked like, how it came about. I knew that there was something that I just wasn't sinking all the way into, that there was some shift in reality that wasn't becoming permanent. And I suspected that this was because I was an emotional eater. And definitely as I lost the weight, I realized that all of those pounds my body was storing was a time that I stuffed my feelings instead of stepping up to the plate and attempting to cope with them. 7 years of therapy later, I finally had enough coping skills that I was starting to lose some of that excuse. Yes, there was a certain habitual need to break emotional eating, but I just felt like there was more involved than that, more involved. And it had a lot to do with happiness. I realized that I was eating a lot when I was unhappy or when I was bored, both which are exacerbated by depression. And I had this theme going on in my life where, because I was depressed and staying home and not moving much, I wasn't really thinking about yet how food impacted my body and what my body was actually telling me it needed, because I was so disconnected, so disassociated from my bodily experience, from the traumas I'd experienced, but also just as a daydreamer, as someone who largely spent time in their head and not in their body, not in communication with the body. I'd grown up playing sports, but I hadn't done any of that since high school. So the first thing that really started this transformation for me was finding my form of movement. For me, that was flow arts. I love the dance with objects. It puts me into a play space that I reoccurringly arrive at. Definitely yoga also put me in an experience that was so connecting and feeding into multiple areas of fulfillment in my life that I could continually come back to it and just start building a relationship with my body again. The effects of even just starting to communicate with your body are near instantaneous. At first, it was really hard to tell what my body wanted because I was still addicted to sugar. I still had cravings that were more based on what my body thought it needed, or what my body was addicted to, or what my body used to medicate my feelings away, than what my body needed actually as nutrients, as sustenance. There were so many times when it was trying to tell me, you're in pain because you're not eating what I need. Can we please talk? And I was just like, no, I'm just gonna check out of my body with television and make this problem disappear by putting my attention elsewhere. And it really takes leaning into that discomfort and permitting pain, accepting pain. I've always had medical issues. I have IBS, which is just problems with digesting things. And my body was always trying to tell me, but I wasn't listening. As I started to rebuild my relationship with my body, it also came to light that I really needed to work on the amount of things that I had. I was collecting objects rather than experiences. I was collecting things that were symbols of what I wanted to be doing but wasn't doing. I collected cameras because I had a passion for photography and videography, but I wasn't going out to capture anything. I collected journals because I had a deep love of writing, but all of the journals took up a long 7-foot shelf and were empty. So this pattern of externalizing myself into symbolic objects instead of participating in the embodied self, participating in actually being with my full being, what I am, was a process that I slowly reversed by going through the clutter, Marie Kondo style, and slowly getting rid of things, moving from a 2-bedroom house to a studio, and then from a studio to what could fit in a vehicle when I moved out here to Colorado. The process of doing that really made me face, and not even face, integrate the things that I had put value on without participating in. I was also going through a phase where I was buying a lot of online classes and never actually taking them. I was willing to announce what I wanted to the world, but I wasn't ready to show up and do it, or show up and be it. I was only ready to think about it because I was lost in my mind. And it's impossible to have a healthy relationship with your body when you're completely lost in your mind, when you're usually checked out in your daydream world. And when you are in your physical body, it's really not about being in your body, it's about forcing yourself to go out and interact with the world and lose yourself in other people and lose yourself in those stories like you're reading the book of life and still not even being a character in your own novel. So as I started to shed all of this weight in the form of things, I noticed that weight started coming off of my body. And this is when I drew the connection that the weight that we hold is as much about our mental journey as our physical journey. By letting go of all that stuff, I was teaching my body that we are not in a survivalistic situation. I can buy these objects in the exact moment I need them, not buy them and put them in the closet and never touch them again. And so as I started shedding the weight of things and letting go of the security that objects were providing me, my body knew that it could loosen its hold on security and quit hoarding weight. Because why does our body do that? Our body does that because in times of survival we might be starving and we need all those stored fat. We need all the stored fat to survive. So shifting from a survivor mentality to a thriver mentality, shifting from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset was the first step. And I came to that through finally letting go of my hoarding tendencies. all mental. Once I moved out here, merely the amount of sunshine available in this beautiful state of Colorado was enough to continue my weight loss. There was more abundance to positive feeling because I wasn't as depressed when I had an abundance of sunshine, an abundance of nature, when everything was novel and exciting again, just because you're in a new place and you're engaged in the present by mere fact of novelty. And I knew that this wasn't going to last. Things are only novel while they're new, and then your brain goes back to finding them familiar. It starts only taking in 10% of its environment and recreating the other 90% from memory again. And that mental acuity that you experience during novelty and during travel fades as things become familiar. So I immediately launched into various weight loss programs, which is where I found Purium. And Purium is a combination of products that are basically organic superfoods, but pressed into pills and shakes and some drinks. And what this did is removed one of my primary obstacles to weight loss, because you may have heard weight loss involves cooking your own food. And I did not identify as a cook. In Cincinnati, where I moved from, I was known as that friend that would go out to eat with you. So sometimes I was going out to eat 2 or 3 times a day plus a coffee shop visit, just because that was the place I was familiar with socializing with people, and that had to go. So when I was in that transition and realizing I had a lot of barriers around believing in myself as a cook, which is important for everyone to get to, because cooking for yourself is vital to survival. And if we have resistance to that, it needs to be addressed. So as I was confronting that and facing all those fears and like not even really knowing what I should be buying at the grocery store, so having anxiety every time I went to the grocery store, like, am I getting this right? It was nice to have products that I knew were going to be good for me physically, but that were in a format that I already had accustomed myself with. Our world is used to putting a pill in their body for problems. Our society is used to making health shakes, making protein shakes. So those were all methods of receiving new nourishment that were familiar and helped me transition into acknowledging how much I needed organic and whole and superfoods in my diet, and that there was an eminent priority to my health to start including those. At the time, I also cut out dairy and caffeine, and I minimized meats to turkey, fish, and chicken. So no red meat. And I really do account a lot of that for my body coming back into flux. For the months that I was strictly doing Purium, I was losing 10 pounds a month instead of 3 or 4, because all of those foods were causing inflammation in my system. And when you lose inflammation, it's not like losing weight. You're not limited to a healthy amount or you're eating too little. It just comes off you because your body is puffed up with reactions to toxins and foods that aren't even commonly known to be toxic. I realized that as someone who has IBS, irregular bowel movements and things of that nature, that a lot of what I was reacting to was the pesticides and herbicides in food, and I was having an allergic reaction to a lot of those foods. Not because of what the food was, but because of how they were created. I came out of that journey knowing that if I was serious about keeping the weight off, it was time to learn how to cook. It was time to face those fears. It was time to take that on for myself. And I actually had a really profound moment where I mapped all the things that I craved and what the positive and negative use of that craving was. So if I'm craving sugar, it's because I want to be sweet to myself. Maybe I should have a little spa day. Maybe I should get dressed up really nice that day. Start putting the things that we put into cravings in other contexts that aren't food. The answer to everything is not food. We are in such a consumer society that we believe that we need to take in, acquire, possess, consume to answer our problems, but there are so many ways to answer the same problem, and they can't all be food. So yeah, if I want to be sweet to myself, maybe I don't need chocolate. Maybe I need some self-care. Maybe I need to expand what self-care looks like. If I'm craving dairy, we originally received dairy through the nurturing of our mother. And so I associate dairy with this desire to like nurture and soothe. I was doing a glass of chocolate milk on the regular, sugar and dairy. So as I started to reconnect mentally what my cravings were guiding me towards, separate that and say, okay, this craving exists because of this root cause. And all I need to do is, instead of going forward to the automatic habit, go backwards to the root cause and solve the root cause instead of the symptom. Then all of this reactionary craving-based eating slowly dissolved as I met my body's actual needs. And starting to rewire the way my brain responded to cravings and cook genuine food instead of eating toxic mash that's available in a lot of like fast food restaurants. I was able to rewire my body's communication with me and come into healthier communication and relationship with my body. And all the while, I'm building the ability to communicate with my body through my physical practices too. So I could start to tell, like, I'm sore. Maybe I need bananas for potassium, you know, like, and creating cross-referential responses to data, actually speaking to my own needs and resolving my own discomforts within the body. And not all the times with food. Like I said, like, overcoming the journey of emotional eating was a big part of it. Developing coping skills, developing other strategies for switching scripts and redirecting my attention. A lot of that mental discipline, taking control of your own mind. It's better to take self-control of your own mind than your body, because the mental feeds into the physical, but the physical doesn't have to feed into the mental. And if you forcibly control just the physical, you're not giving yourself the chance to integrate mentally. So right now, I'm lower than I've ever been in my adult life, and the journey has not been an easy one and is still ongoing in a lot of ways. But the genuine connection I have to my body through this weight loss process has more positive benefits than just the weight loss. It's affected my ability to be embodied. It's put me on a more authentic life path. It's surrounded me with better people who I can learn from. The journey is more than a sum of its individual weight loss results. You take on this journey because you are aiming to be a better person, and you understand how important it is to being grounded and being present, to actually be in communication with your body and giving it the food it needs. Realizing when you're putting food in your body that your stomach is about this big, and a single burger from McDonald's, if you get the Big Mac, is bigger than this amount of space. We're stretching our bodies. Just a few tips I've picked up along the way. Switch out your sugars for fruits. Fruits are natural sources of sugar, but they also come with fiber, so they don't put you on this huge craving spiral. If you're feeling unsatiated, you feel like you've ate so much and your body is not done being hungry, that means you need protein or you need fats, healthy fats. Our bodies won't be satiated until they get what they need. You definitely need way more water in your body than you think you do, especially if you're not getting adequate amounts of vegetables and fruits. Also lesser known fact, once carbs are processed in the body, they are sugars. Every time you eat a carb, you're consuming sugar. It's not that much different than a candy bar. So keep that in mind. There may be a period of time where you need to eat more simply in order to identify what foods are actually irritating your body. So when I found out I was reacting very strongly to onion, if I had only continued consuming onions in spaghetti sauce, in combinations of like sandwiches and in things that I cooked in mixed bowls of rice, chicken, and veggies, I would never have known that onion was the thing that I was reacting to because there was too much else going on in the meal for me to identify what it is that I was reacting to. So for a period of time, cooking more simply was also very important. We're so used to, when we go to sit-down restaurants, having this huge combination of ingredients that make up this masterpiece, and when we're learning to cook for ourselves, that's just not where we go first. So having patience with your own cooking was also a big thing. I've now reconnected to the joy of eating my own food because I know what's in it and I know it's not going to hurt me. When I eat out, I am taking a gamble that what is in this won't hurt me, and I do not value that risk more than I value being good to myself. And so that shift in perspective has definitely helped. And as you start to make one dish better and then another dish, I no longer crave Panera bread because I make really good salads and really good sandwiches. And they're not going to put the exact combination of ingredients I want, that I know my body's craving right now, into those foods. I'm left to whatever preconceived combinations were available. So being able to be that specific with your body's needs is actually really rewarding. When I eat the wrong food, it can throw me off for an entire day. I'm just not ready or willing to sacrifice that kind of time anymore. I've got too much I want to do, too much I want to create, to let skipping over my body's boundaries, skipping over my body's needs, neglecting my body's needs, to stop my momentum from continuing to build and carry forward into the things that I'm passionate about. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than morphine in rat studies. So if you're having trouble cutting off sugar, what I did personally is every time I craved something else and I had this addictive narrative around consuming something, I put that off into sugar. It's like, well, I can give up that because I don't have to give up sugar if I give up that. And I slowly started giving up more and more and more under the excuse of I'm keeping sugar, until all that was left was sugar. And then I was like, okay, we can moderate our relationship with this because we know how it makes us feel. We know that if we eat sugar first thing in the morning, we're going to go through an entire day's worth of craving cycles where you just want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because that sugar is spiking your glucose. And when you spike your glucose, you get sleepy. And then your glucose drops, which makes you increasingly hungry. So every 2 hours, you're going to get hungry. If you're eating food that you actually need for your body to function, your body only gets hungry when it needs more food, when there are more nutrients and sustenance that it's needing. So this narrative of just like always being hungry disappears entirely. And the feeling of being empty isn't something that we feel we have to constantly fill anymore. It's a metaphor. You can handle the void. But yeah, there's so much I could say, but what I really want to impress upon you the most is this isn't about my journey. This is about what you are getting from it. The universe is auditioning for your attention. And if you've made it this far into the video, it means something in this was resonating with you enough to continue watching. So I hope this has been an opportunity to bring to light and face some hard truths about your relationship with food. I know that it is a long narrative. Do not think that just because you've experienced a breakthrough that you're going to shed 20 pounds in a month. It's a lifestyle change that you slowly make over time and sustain over time because it immediately rewards you. So celebrate every victory and continue to shift your perspective. You can do it. I did it, and we all can. Thanks.